All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. It is that time. I feel like there should be like a theme, like theme music or something. Oh, there was theme music at the start of the show, but like the E3 episode. Yeah. That's pretty good. But I was going to do like trumpets or something. I was going to try and do mouth trumpet. I'm going to stop doing that. Yeah, you're just handling all of it. So there's Tactic. We, of course, have Nerd Bomber laughing at him.
Hello.
As often the case. I'm Illegal86, and we are here to take you through the wonderful world of E3 2021. There's a lot to dive into. We're kind of doing a bit of a different little shaking things up here on the show today. There is going to be no game segment today, which means I'm not going to lose. So
no one will lose. Good. It'll be great.
Yeah, we're all winners today, okay? Because it's E3. Now we've managed to kind of shunt our usual recording time as well, so that I think we caught. Did we catch everything that E3 has, or we might miss like one or two things? But
no, we got everything in E3. We're doing it live tonight. You know, we're getting down to the wire, but we got everything in E3 in this episode.
Everything there is, and if you're wondering what the plan is, what our plan for going through all of this is, there isn't one. It's, we have some things we want to make sure we cover across kind of all of the events, all the showcases. We're probably going to be talking about some stuff more than others. And I will say right off the top, there are certainly things that we are going to miss. That's just kind of the nature of the beast, so to speak.
Jinx.
Yeah. Wow. Look at that. We've been jinxing each other. Nerd Bomber and I today have already jinxed. That's our third jinx in like half an hour.
We're just so in tune this week,
Right. When you watch this much gaming footage, your brain's kind of, the sinusoids in your brain just kind of start overlapping. So there's a lot to cover.
Dang, I want to join.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be many chances. I want to start. This was one of the first things, and I'm just going to dive right in. Battlefield 2042. I want to talk about this because this was really the first piece of E3 that I watched was the trailer, and this trailer is bananas. Now I have not. I don't think I've ever played a Battlefield game. If I have, it was for 5 minutes. It wasn't there one that was just called Battlefield? Because that might have been the one that I played.
Yeah, there have been a lot. There's a lot of different renditions. I've never played online. I've only ever played like campaign stuff. I think the one that I most remember playing is like Battlefield Hardline, where you're a cop.
There's Hardline. There was also I think the one I played the most was Battlefield. Wasn't there one called Bad Company?
Yes,
I think I might have played that one.
So
They've clearly a storied franchise, but they're getting into it here with this trailer. You're seeing there's rocket ships, there's wingsuits. At the end, spoiler alert, there's a freaking tornado. Is the implication that the tornado is the next version of like a weapon of mass like, was that man-made? Is that what I'm supposed to be taking away from that?
I honestly don't know if it's that or if they're just really predicting like 2042 is going to be a bad time for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, it could be like,
if you guys like 2020, just wait till 2042. Right.
Like, is it a climate change? Like, I don't want to speculate too much, but like one of my other takeaways from this trailer was you're inclined, this is the genre of like Call of Duty and other war games like this, and you're inclined to juxtapose it with those bigger franchises. And I feel like Call of Duty in particular, the way their trailers tend to go is you have this, even if it's not the actual protagonist of the game, you're alongside a particular person who fights through various circumstances. And we saw other trailers like this, wink, wink, Rainbow Six Extraction, which we'll get to later, where there's kind of this protagonist person and they fight through things just to show you what the game is going to be like. And then they, show you what the title is and yada, yada. This trailer was different. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like, people were dying. Like every time you would meet quote unquote meet a person, you'd be alongside a person shooting a gun or wingsuit, whatever. They would then like a helicopter would like land on their head, and it was like, all right, next person, we're gonna sweep you off to the landing pad of a rocket ship. Okay, we're driving up to the rocket ship. Okay, the rocket ship took off, and also we just got crushed by a ballistic missile or something. It was so
frenetic.
It was frenetic. I might have read into it a little bit too much. I was like, man, they're going out of their way to show what war is like. Because like, it's whenever I play Call of Duty, there's this disconnect of like, first of all, if I was ever actually in a war, I would maybe last 5 minutes. That's my opinion on it. But people die a lot in war. Whereas in like, again, these Call of Duty trailers, they often show it's like, all right, you have a ghillie suit and and you're like, no one's ever going to touch you and you're shooting this and that. I liked this because it was much more like, okay, you see this person? Dead. See this next person? Also dead. It was very frenetic, and it was, it looked fun. They're throwing at things at the wall and seeing what's going to stick. That's for sure.
It seems like reflective of the actual multiplayer first-person shooter experience. Because like you said, whenever we do see those Call of Duty trailers, like they show you the person who's demoing the game always looks like indestructible, but this obviously like multiplayer online games, there's a lot of times
you die
when
once every 30 seconds.
Exactly. And that is pretty much that kind of crazy, over-the-top, super fast-paced action that we got out of this trailer.
Yeah. I was both drooling and intimidated. Like, I feel like there's going to be a lot going on, and Explosion City.
Well, there's the part too. We haven't talked about the part where some guy just ghost rode an ATV. That was this trailer, right? The guy ghost rode the ATV into the helicopter.
I think so.
Like,
yeah.
And like, very casually, which again, like I think you're right that it probably was like that they, and probably most games, want to lean fully into the multiplayer experience rather than the single player experience, right? Because the single player experience, you maybe will get, levels where you're in a ghillie suit and you're kind of soft and you're just shooting stuff, but you're going to be okay kind of thing. But in multiplayer, you're never okay. There's always an insane amount of things going on around you. I mean, Battlefield, I know, is one of those franchises that you can kind of hop into a plane and by the way, was this the one where the guy hopped out of the plane in the middle? There was so much happening in this trailer. This was the one where you're at one point they're on a plane and the guy ejects from the plane to like use a shoulder-mounted missile launcher and shoot another plane, and then he gets back in the first plane. Like, oh man, it was a lot. You should go watch it. It was like a Michael Bay fever dream, and I mean that in the best possible way. Yeah, but that was kind of my what's that French amuse-bouche of like, this is catch a flavor of what video games are like as we go into E3. I don't know how accurate it was, but like I said, they sure threw a lot at the wall. Moving kind of chronologically and getting into, again, trying to stick to some of the bigger games, let's talk about Elden Ring, because that was Thursday. Okay, so George R.R. Martin is involved in this. That is like maybe one of the headlines of this. I mean, it looks like a very cool game. It looks like you're getting a little bit of like Dark Souls kind of thing, a little bit of Skyrim. It's that kind of milieu, right? I don't know if it's necessarily for me.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's going to be good. I don't know. Like,
that's kind of where I live. I know a lot of these From Software games, they're hard. And I think I've just moved past that point where like I appreciate a nice kind of fun, relaxing experience, and me bashing my head against the wall over a hard level or a hard boss or losing all of my equipment or whatever and having to restart from square one isn't super appealing. And there's a little part of me that's a little salty that George R.R. Martin took some time to write a video game or influence a video game and not finish the Game of Thrones series, but hey.
See, like, my guess is they wanted his name on it, and so they like asked him a couple. I bet he was like a consultant level kind of. I don't think he wrote the thing. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. I'm talking out my butt. But like, yeah, same as what you said. I would hope he didn't take too much time to make this video game. But it's. I think you're right. Like, and I mentioned right away. Like, I got kind of Dark Souls vibes. Dark Souls has kind of like taken this entire genre and like maybe subliminally predisposed you to like the notion, whether correct or incorrect, that like this game's going to be really hard. You're going to die a lot because there's going to be scary bosses, and you'll like you said, you'll die and you'll lose your stuff, and it might not be that fun, but it's going to be cool. Like that, it's just like it is kind of this genre now. that I feel like this fell into. I also feel a little bit like Elden Ring. They were like, all right, fantasy genre. Well, you got Elder Scrolls, you got Lord of the Rings, you got, oh, you know what? Elden Ring. Like, it feels a little bit like, and they didn't get into the story
like
too much in the trailer.
fantasynamegenerator.com.
Yeah, it felt a little bit derivative to me. I don't know that they need to be going out of the way to be super, super original, especially if the gameplay is good. But the other thing I want to mention about this trailer specifically that I wrote down was, this was the one where the horse did the jump, right? Where he jumped like up a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember this part? I laughed out loud when I saw that. I'm sorry. Like, I know it's, I think they were taking themselves really seriously. And then the horse does a deep squat and just jumps off screen. I was like, what is going on here? There's really badass wolves. There's like these demon guys, this guy with no head. I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is dark. And then horse just boing. I was like, what? That was very confusing to me. But I
mean, I will say though, it was a very beautiful looking game. Like this definitely.
Oh yeah.
This was a trailer where, especially since we got a little bit of like gameplay in here, it looked beautiful. The graphics were great. And I'm sure if you are a fan of this type of game, you were probably super stoked. And having that release date, which is at this point only like 6 months away, probably super exciting. Which I don't know why. Maybe it's just because this was the first time I feel like we've gotten a decent sized chunk of information about Elden Ring. But it seems like this game was farther off than January, like 6 months from now. So I think that was a little bit of a neat surprise.
Yeah, we got a lot. So Tactic, you've been awful quiet. I want to get you in on the dish in here. Anything to say about Elden Ring, or do you want to talk about Tiny Tina's Wonderlands?
I want to move on to Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I've always been kind of intimidated by this game as well. Thursday for me was just overall, I was sort of in the feeble position, saying these games look hard. I like Tiny Tina.
Right. Well, so Tiny Tina, yeah. I mean, I'll let you. I think you and Nerdbomber are both particularly excited about this. So I'll let you have the floor. But the basic gist of it is Borderlands looter shooter, but not Borderlands, kind of thing. So tell me about Tiny Tina. I didn't finish Borderlands. I didn't even finish the first one. Am I supposed to know who? So am I supposed to know who she is?
You are introduced to her in the game, but she's more of a side character than anything, because each game has your own 4-person squad that you play as, and she is not one of them in all of the other what's the word I'm looking for? Not games, but I'm going to say games.
DLCs? Expansions?
No, she's like an NPC that you meet, and she gives you like storylines and quest lines to follow. She's actually she's a big enough member of the cast where she is in the movie, the Borderlands movie adaptation. And she's basically this like kind of young, quirky girl who is pretty technically inclined. Like she can tinker with stuff. And that's kind of why you do errands for her and you meet her, is basically to get her different gadgets and whatever. And there is a DLC, and this is what's exciting for me. There's a DLC that was actually really, really well received, where Tiny Tina is obsessed with playing like D&D-ish type games. And she basically makes a D&D type campaign for you to play through in this DLC. So essentially, this isn't like... Gearbox made it very clear that this is not a spin-off of Borderlands, but it's basically kind of leaning into that DLC's idea of having this fantastical universe, and Tiny Tina just happens to be in it.
This like D&D style. Because you got that vibe, it's a dragon, right, that this guy fights at the end.
Mm-hmm.
For me seeing it, and this might have been part of why, it didn't put a whole lot of wind in my sails, is because I think the Tiny Tina reveal was supposed to be pretty significant, and I was like, I have no idea who that is. It's just like, what hit me more was the voice cast. They have an impressive voice cast for this: Andy Samberg, Wanda Sykes, Ashley Burch, Will Arnett. This is going to be a thing, no doubt. Like my thing with Borderlands, the reason I didn't finish Borderlands, I'm about to make a lot of people very mad, but it's not an E3 episode if I don't do that. I think you said it yourself before. I never ran errands for Tiny Tina. I never reached that point in the Borderlands universe. But at any given time in the Borderlands universe, you're running errands for somebody. And, that's just kind of a gaming. I mean, you do the same thing in Elder Scrolls, but like, I just remember thinking there's a lot of errands. And for a perfectionist such as myself, I'm going to do all the errands and I'm not going to have a good time.
I think you did
maybe,
yourself a disservice by not playing with anybody else because
no doubt. Oh yeah, no
Tactic
doubt.
and Tactic, I don't know if you enjoyed your time with it like I did because I am a perfectionist too. So we literally had to check off every single side quest that popped up. And
I just love Borderland in general. I mean, the game is fantastic. The dialogue is fantastic. And to now basically have a full game based on what I like to call fan fiction, that's really what it kind of feels like to me, is awesome.
Yeah, well, it's very cool to see, even as someone who might not be overtly excited for this one thing that Borderlands I think is known for and should be known for is the art style, right? It's very very comic booky, very cartoony, and Borderlands is kind of this. It's post-apocalyptic, right? That's what it technically is. To take it into a more D&D-ish place is an inspired idea. Like I have no problem saying that. This is going to be a very big deal. I think Gearbox has one here.
I mean,
we
especially
will stay tuned.
You think about the humor in these games, and now that Critical Role is so big, and there's so many D&D podcasts and things that people watch and listen to, and D&D is really kind of taken over a lot of nerd culture, at least. And so basically infusing this idea with the humor of Borderlands can only be a fun time.
Yeah,
I'm
no
pumped.
doubt.
I'm pumped.
This is going to be a big one. I don't know if we got a release date for this one. If we did, it blew by me. I'm sorry. Details aren't my strong suit. But yeah, that for us, we're going to start skipping around here. I want to touch on one thing on Friday, the IGN Expo. There was one game that in particular caught my eye, and it was a pretty down ballot game. This is this is my quote unquote indie pick, I think. Game called Haunted Space. So for those that remember, I'm sure at some point and during the run of the podcast, I mentioned that I was playing Everspace. This is spooky Everspace. That's it's a 1-minute trailer. It's very short, what we saw, but it's spooky Everspace with supposedly a better story. And I'm not sure about this part, but I think and kind of hope they're taking the roguelite out. Roguelites are hard, guys. Roguelites,
they're frustrating.
Everspace had a hard time keeping my attention because the story, my two biggest gripes with Everspace were the story was so bare bones it barely even existed. And two, the roguelite thing got tiring. If there is a space combat game that can fix those two things and also introduce a spooky element, hint, hint, Dead Space, damn, I'm into it. And again, this is similar to Elden Ring. This is literally okay, what should we call this game? Spooky Space. It's the name is really dumb. But I was it was a minute long. You didn't see a whole lot. But I was into this one. So we don't have to dwell on that. I wanted to kind of breeze by that and mention that as kind of a down ballot pick, so to speak. Now I think we can come back if we have time, but I want to skip to one of the bigger kind of exposés. What's the term? Showcases. I'm going to ask this for maybe the millionth time on the podcast. Is it Ubisoft or Ubisoft?
Okay,
Ubisoft,
I think
right?
Ubisoft.
No, so I was watching at the end of this showcase, the CEO comes on, and I'm 99% sure because I even rewound it. I know he had an accent, but I listened in, and I'm pretty sure he said Ubisoft. So I will take my little victory there, and I will call it Ubisoft.
It's fascinating that here's the three of us, pretty well-to-do video game podcasters. We don't know. We think we know.
Somebody tell us and put this debate to bed.
After how many years of playing their games, I've played so many of this company's games, still don't know how it's pronounced. But anyways, we're going to go through some of the bigger ones here. I have to say, I mentioned it before, I think Rainbow Six Extraction is in the conversation for me as the best trailer. Most impressive game, I don't know, but the best put together. There's only one I can think of that was a better trailer, and we're going to get to that later. But
I know what you're talking about.
I think you do. Well, yeah, we'll get to it. But I was really, really taken in by this one. I'm a big PvE guy. I haven't played any Rainbow Six games in a minute. This seems to be quite different from what they usually do.
But I like it.
I don't know. What were your thoughts on this? Yeah.
So for me, my initial reaction when I saw what this game was wow, they've been hearing for years that we want more like squad-based PvE games like Left 4 Dead, and so many companies are now leaning into this. There's going to be so many of them all at the same time. But then
yeah, it's a good point. That's great. I think that's amazing, and we're seeing a lot of those.
Like, I don't know if they're all going to be competing with each other, like if that'll be a bad thing because then they'll detract from each other. But I know I will probably play them all with Tactic and maybe with you if there's crossplay. But so I was saying, like, what's going to differentiate this from the other basically like squad-based PvE games? And I actually think this is really neat because they kind of take that Left 4 Dead formula, but they add in the traditional Rainbow Six. Like, you have missions, you have to be tactical. You can't just go in and start spraying your weapon and hoping to hit zombie, alien, vampires, whatever. You have to have a plan, and there's something you have to try to do tactically, and also you can't leave a man behind, which I thought was great.
Yeah, I wanted to expand a little bit on that tactics too, because to the point of not just, spraying and praying, there's also the, I forget what it's called, but we're going to call it the slime that's on the floor to kind of be aware and remove it and clear that from the room before you get attacked by the horde is all part of the strategy. So it's not just go for the enemies, it's make it difficult on top of that for them to even get to you. And I thought that was super clever and really fostering this great teamwork in game.
And like Left 4 Dead, and I think we're going to talk about Back 4 Blood later, but like they're not so tactical, right? And that's what you were getting at. I mean, there are some special zombies in the old Left 4 Dead games that you have to minimally work around, but in large part, a lot of that game is run around, search a room. Oh, there's a zombie. Oh, I shot it. It's all right. Move on, kind of thing. And yeah, like that, that's not going to fly here. I think even in this sort of cinematic setting, you got that sense, right? And my last Rainbow Six experience was showing my age here. Rainbow Six Vegas, I think is what it was called. This was Xbox 360, this way back in the day. And it was like, I would play this game for hours, and it was very simple. There's a building that has 30 terrorists in it. There's a little counter that shows you how many terrorists you killed, but you have to do it right. Like, you have to so you have to sweep the rooms in a tactical SWAT teamy way, or it's not gonna work. You can't just kind of run and gun. So yeah, I agree. I like that they're taking that tactical aspect and trying to extend it into a PvE based, looking like a zombie, alien, whatever kind of experience.
Well, it makes Rainbow Six feel a little bit more accessible too for people who are new. Like, I know I've tried to play Rainbow Six Siege, and first of all, if you don't have a full-on squad that you communicate on the regular, you're going to get wrecked because people who play Rainbow Six, like, their levels of communication are off the charts. I don't know.
Yeah.
You said that you haven't played a Rainbow Six game in a while, and I don't know if Technic has either. But I remember just sitting down, and I was just like, this is not going to go well. This is not for me. But a game like this, where I can pick it up with a friend or two, and we don't have to be pros because we're playing against AI, like, PvE, that's perfect.
Yeah, totally. Barrier to entry. I think Siege is one of those games that I've never tried it, but one of the reasons I haven't is because I know it wouldn't work out. So yeah, and that may be a tactical move on the franchise's part, is say we're going to pivot into something that we can get more people in the door. Moving right along, something that could not be any more different, but I feel like we should talk about Rocksmith Plus.
Dude, I'm stoked.
How about that? So is this going to, because you're a fiddler diddler, as I recall, as am I. Is this going to be a purchase for you?
So the one interesting thing for me is that they, in all of the stuff, all of the trailers that they showed, and even then I went on the website to sign up for their open beta or closed beta. I guess you can win an entry into their closed beta on PC, but there's no cost. So basically they're turning Rocksmith, which was a game that basically lets you plug in your own guitar and play Guitar Hero with a real guitar, and you could learn real songs and it would kind of teach you and go through the motions.
Which is like cool enough, by the way.
Did you ever play it, by the way?
I never did, but I remember hearing about it and thinking, wow. And then I just never, I think when it first came out, it was before I even owned a guitar and was like getting into that whole thing. So I was like, oh, that's cool for guitar people. And I've kind of moved on.
So like, I bought it and I struggled with it a little bit, and I'll touch on why. But first of all, I didn't see anything that showed what the subscription fee would be for this game. So that's a little concerning for me, because there are there's services like Musician and stuff, which I personally use Musician because I like their user interface a little bit better. But like, I know what my monthly fee is going to be. And so they have to make sure that they're falling in a very competitive space, which is going to be hard because they have all of this music that they have to license out. So I'm a little like skeptical to see what that price is going to be on a monthly basis. But there is a lot to like that they improved on the original game here. One is that to play Rocksmith originally, you needed an electric guitar. The game came with a cable, so it basically was your amp jack that you would plug into your guitar, and then it wired through to USB, and you would plug it into your Xbox or PlayStation or PC or whatever. And if you didn't have that, you were SOL. Now they've linked it up where you can just use your phone, which is what other popular guitar apps and stuff have started to do. And I think that's a really ingenious thing, because people who may just have a cheap acoustic that they picked up somewhere now can start to play. And this is a really weird thing for me to have picked up on, but they also introduced a tablature mode. And I don't know how familiar any listeners out there are with guitar or Rocksmith, but one of the things that I struggled with Rocksmith was that the way that the notes came down on the screen was just like Guitar Hero, but it was very confusing, because if you look at a stacked neck of a guitar, you don't have 5 buttons spread out horizontally, you have vertically stacked strings. And so you had to memorize which colors went to which string, and there was just a lot going on. And I was used to tablature, and that was not how I was seeing things presented to me. And they added a mode where you can actually, have flowing tablature instead coming up on your screen. And that's going to make life so much better for people who want to use this. If you've been using tabs at all, it's just going to be more intuitive. And I know this is getting really guitar nerdy here, but that excited me a lot.
Tactic, you going to start shredding?
No, I have broken fingers. I have long, weird fingers, and you'd think that would work great for the guitar, but I just can never get them to move on the proper frets. And that's why the only thing that I've really tried and had some moderate success was the ukulele, because it's got less strings and it's a little smaller, a little less stressful.
Well, my guitar barrier, I've gotten a decent amount of proficiency, but I can't physiologically, like you were saying, technically. Barring chords, I don't have it. I just can't do it. It's every time I tried it, I will take certain stretches of time and try and figure it out and build the calcium, whatever. I cannot do it. It's beyond me. But on a meta level, before we move on, 'cause we're spending a lot of time on this, but on a meta level, the thing I liked about this announcement trailer for this was that they weren't just showing someone pick up an axe and just immediately start shredding, right? They showed a lot. I think they might have showed more footage of people being frustrated, which good, because
that's the way
it's not gonna be easy.
Guitar playing is.
Yeah. There were momentary victories for the quote unquote characters in these trailers, but I actually liked the moments more where they were you could tell they were saying wordy dirds at the TV or the computer. So yeah, Rocksmith Plus, subscription service fee unknown, closed beta starting. Already started, I guess. Again, we're going to be skipping around a lot here. We're already coming up on our halfway break, and we have a lot more to cover. Let's hit one of the biggest things, or what I think is one of the biggest things before we go to the break. Avatar: Frontier of Pandora. Now, Nerd Bomber wrote in our show notes, and I really appreciate this. She wrote Blue Avatar in parentheses. In case any of you were thinking
Avatar was relevant. I know it's coming back, but like I figured I had to specify.
Well, that's what this trailer was for me. In I will say, graphically speaking, I think this was the best looking thing that I saw. And we can debate that, but it was also, beyond that, it was primarily a reminder of like, hey, remember that movie that came out in like, what's that, 2009? Like, when did that even come out? It's been so long. We made a game out of it, which, like, when you think about it, that's a natural progression that probably should have happened a while ago. Maybe it's trying to like wet our whistles for Avatar 2. I have no idea.
It was waiting for more triangles.
Waiting for more triangle, and the triangles are here. That's for dang sure. The other kind of main point I wanted to make about this one is it clearly appears that the humans are the bad guys. And I'm like, you know what? Right on.
Was that not
I don't know.
how it went in the movie? I honestly don't remember.
That's exactly how it went in the movie. We suck.
Yeah, well, it's the Pocahontas thing, right? It's Space
Pocahontas.
Human becomes Avatar, realizes that humans are bad, tries to save the avatars. I know they're not called avatars. I don't know what they're called. The planet's called Pandora. Look, you saw the movie. Everybody saw it back when it came out. We got a lot of flying combat, a lot of really well shot arrows in this trailer. On the backs of winged beasts, they're shooting really precise arrows. Definite like Horizon Zero Dawn-ish vibes, because you have the archery plus the kind of mechanical things roaming around plus all the kind of nature content. It's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be a big one. I would need to hear good things about it, because like the actual IP, I could give a rat's patootie about, but that's just my 2 cents. Tactic, Nerd Bomber, thoughts on this one?
I'm always pretty hesitant with game to movie adaptations and vice versa. So I'm kind of in the same camp as you, where I'd have to hear rave reviews about it to really be invested.
Right, which it's possible. I think there was nothing about this. I mean, no gameplay was really shown. It was pretty much entirely cinematic. We don't know anything really about the gameplay yet, as far as I know. So there's a chance that it could be doing something gameplay wise that's really novel and really cool, and that gets my foot in the door. But I think the draw of this trailer was supposed to be, oh man, remember how cool Avatar was? And I'm like, no. they're like, we made a whole game out of it, and I'm like, all right, have fun with that. Nerd Bomber, your thoughts before we move into the break?
Honestly, just kind of the same. Like the Avatar IP never really grabbed me. If they had announced a Avatar like Aang Last Airbender type game, I probably would have been a little bit more stoked. Like you guys said,
Avatar.
Yeah, non-blue Avatar. This looked super pretty, and I'm hoping
non-blue, non-live action Avatar.
Yes.
Right. Oh yeah.
And like they said, this is going to come out on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X as like the primary consoles. So like I'm hoping they're leveraging the power of next gen for whatever this turns out to be. But yeah, I'm going to need to see more, because right now the IP alone just like, it looks pretty. That's cool. But I'm not pre-ordering this anytime soon.
Yeah. It struck me as definitely like they were like, this is our big deal. And I was like, is it? But anyways, so we're gonna move to the break now. We have a lot to cover after the break. We need to get to Xbox Bethesda, of course, and the Nintendo Direct, as well as any other little things we can fit in Square Enix presents if we have the time. Before we go to the break, of course, I would be remiss if we did not shout out our fantastic Patreon producers, Mr. Ben Checkness, Mr. Stephen Keller. Thank you so much again for supporting the show. This E3 rundown is happening because of you and because of your continued support. So we thank you guys so much. Ben and Steven were both recently on the show. You've heard their episodes. I think one of them was last week. The other one was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. that could be you guys. If you want more of the details on our Patreon levels of support, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Get the details there. We have a night level at the top, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, as well as that producer shout out, input into our weekly game segment, which, as I mentioned before, is not happening this week, and the occasional guest spot. We have a Squire level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and there's also a page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So again, patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Check us out there. Thanks again to Ben and Steven. We're going to take a short break now to shout out a sponsor, and we'll be back to talk about more E3.
Brush is an electric toothbrush that will change the way you think about brushing your teeth. With powerful sonic technology and ultra-gentle bristles, the Brush redefines what it means to have super clean teeth. It's like that feeling when you just leave the dentist, a fresh whole mouth clean every single day. Our listeners get 15% off their total purchase with code POD15. Follow the link in the show notes and enter code POD15 to get your exclusive discount and upgrade your oral care routine.
All right, let's dive right back in here. I'm going to skip down to the big one here, Xbox Bethesda. Now, I want to jump around here, and let's do this a little bit differently than the last segment. I'm going to selfishly say we should individually throw out games we thought looked particularly good. I'm going to let Tectic go first. We can kind of just round robin this, kind of don't have to do things in order, just to spice it up a little bit.
Best trailer by far, Outer Worlds 2. Knocked it out of the damn park.
That was a very funny trailer. In terms of like entertainment value, it was very funny. It didn't show us anything new about the game, and it openly said it's still in development, but it was hella funny.
I don't know what the deal is with Outer Worlds. That's one that I skimmed by me a little bit because I missed the boat on the first one. I agree it was funny. Which held my attention a decent amount. I thought the best trailer was Contraband. That was what we mentioned before. We thought we were gonna agree on best trailer.
Interesting.
We could talk about Contraband was we can talk about Outer Worlds 2 more before we get to Contraband. Xbox exclusive. This is a big deal. This is Xbox Bethesda. They're the big baddie now. I guess I shouldn't say baddie. Goodie for a lot of people. But Xbox exclusive. This is what people were hoping for. That's a huge deal. Is this going to be a pre-order for you guys?
I mean, none of these, for the most part, are going to be a pre-order because
Game Pass.
That's one of the major takeaways. And this isn't my trailer pick, obviously, but one of my major takeaways here is I think they said they showed like 30 games and 28 of them or something like that are going to be on Game Pass either day one or launch. And like, for me, that value is insane. And I know not all of these are first party games here, but even stuff like announcing that Hades is coming to Game Pass, and that's a game I've had my eye on for a very long time. And I waited long enough for it to hit Xbox and PlayStation 4, and now it's going to be on Game Pass, and I don't have to pay for it. And it's fantastic. And basically all of the Xbox first party games that are going to be exclusive, all of the big ones that we saw here, I don't have to pay for because I subbed to Game Pass. And that is just an understated value for me.
12 minutes, day one Game Pass. Back for Blood, day one Game Pass. Plague Tale Requiem, day one Game Pass. We're going to come back to some of these. I never did, but that trailer looked phenomenal, I will say. I don't know. Did we talk about Plague Tale on a podcast before? Something? It looked vaguely familiar to me. Like it might have come up like last summer or something.
I think, I played the first game. And I think I talked about it. I think it was last summer that I played it. And I think I talked about it pretty in depth. And that was one of the games where I had heard like decent things and I picked it up and I was very surprised because that was another one. It was on Game Pass. I didn't pay for it. It was my first month of Game Pass. And I was like, let's see what's on here. And that game blew me away. Like it was literally one of my favorite games that I played last year. And I think this was one of the games where I grabbed Tectic while we were watching this showcase. And I was just like, as soon as I saw a rat, like a single rat, I just like grabbed him and I was like, this is Plague Tale. This is the Plague Tale sequel. And I'm so excited.
Stop grabbing me.
You need to, like, I would highly recommend going back and playing that because literally just fantastic. There's like puzzly stuff. It has elements of, I would say, like Dishonored, sneaking around, stealthy kind of stuff. And the story was fantastic. Big ups to that.
I before I got to play 12 minutes, you get better. It's free for you because of Game Pass. You had better freaking play that and tell me. That one hurt me to watch. Because I really, that's one that I wish I could get my hands on. And I mean, Willem Dafoe, forget about it. Like that's it. That's all I needed to hear. But yeah, I do want to circle back to Contraband. And we'll get to some of the other things here. But Contraband was the best trailer to me. That was the one that I watched, and again, kind of in a similar vein to what I was just saying about 12 minutes. It made me want to buy an Xbox, which is what E3 is supposed to be about, right? It's not even supposed to be make you want to buy games. It's make you want to buy consoles. Probably is what they want, right? So then after you buy the consoles, you buy games. But I liked they didn't show us anything. I understand that. They didn't show us any gameplay. It was a very cinematic thing, but
you like the premise.
I love the premise, what they were laying out, which is it's a co-op smuggler sort of thing. You plan jobs, you go do them. It's like the 1970s. It looks like it's this like vaguely tropical environment. It's hard to even say. But the way it's this freeze frame and you're kind of zooming around this smuggler's hideout and they're showing you, okay, here's where we planned the job. Here's someone working on a car. Here's what we stole. It was short and sweet. It got me suitably excited. So for me, that was the crown jewel. I would say the unlikely crown jewel of this session. But of course, we have to talk about Halo Infinite. Free to play multiplayer. I didn't see that coming. I don't know. Were we supposed to see that coming?
This was a fantastic trailer. I need to say that first and foremost. The constant, I mean, no different than Battlefield, as we mentioned, where it was just this fluid, people dying
barrage.
left and right, and it was just done so surgically and so well that you can't not be hyped for this game.
I feel like they really did a good job. If you had any interest and any experience with Halo at any time, like I feel like so many people have really good memories of Halo back in the day, and they did a really good job kind of evoking those memories and making it super accessible. So now everybody who wants to can jump back into Halo multiplayer and revisit that.
Right. At this point, that's the Halo franchise's main job, right? Is, to me at least, I guess to me as someone who hasn't played a Halo game in a while, their main job is to, come to me and say, hey, remember Halo 2? God, how great was that? Hey, it's still going on. Like, just here, buy this game. Like, you know what you're getting with Halo. I think, like, and they're doing little quirks here and there, but you know what you're getting, and if you like it, you're going to love this. Free to play multiplayer is the cherry on top to me. So this was one that, I wasn't salivating over it certainly, but they did a very good job is what I will say about it.
I was surprised, not to move on from Halo, but I feel like we know kind of what Halo Infinite is. Like obviously we got the new campaign trailer as well, but like we've been hearing about Halo for a very long time. I'm surprised neither of you mentioned the thing that they closed their show on, which is the newest from Arcane, Redfall. And this is another one of those PvE squad-based like supernatural shooter games where basically you're squadding up. It's got the same energy as Left 4 Dead and Back 4 Blood, but you're fighting vampires instead of, zombies in this cartoonish world. And at first, like my first blush was, I love Arcane, so I'm going to trust them. But this isn't what I wanted.
Fingerprints all over it. But
yeah. But like this isn't what I wanted from Arcane. You know what I mean? Like knowing that they have Deathloop coming out, knowing that they've done Dishonored and Prey and they've had these really amazing games, having a PvE sort of style game wasn't what I expected from them. But the more that I watched and sat with this trailer, I think bringing that infusion of having that like magical mystical abilities infused with gunplay and just having that wit and charm of your Left 4 Dead game, I think this could be really fun. And so add this onto my stack of PvE games that I'll be playing.
By the way, I'd rather compare this more to Borderlands because there's a different class system associated with the different players.
It's what they're trying to highlight in there. I mean, I got momentarily confused watching that. When I say Arcane's fingerprints were all over it, I was like, wait, is this Deathloop? Is this like a Deathloop expansion or something that's like about vampires? I mean, it looks very similar, but it looks really, really, really exciting. Fun fact about me, this is an E3 thing.
You're jealous because this is another Xbox exclusive?
Well, that's fun too, but that's not what I was going to say. Vampires are Illegal 86's number one childhood fear.
Really? So you would not like this game?
I'd probably still like it. I've moved on. I used to have recurring nightmares as a child about vampires. Incidentally, ones that looked kind of like the vampire in this trailer. So I'm watching this and I'm like, oh no. There's a little bit of that going on.
Don't play this one at night.
But it looks, I was saving. There's other things here we haven't hit that we should, but I was saving that one because I think that was my number 2. That was my second favorite in this showcase. I still think Contraband, that's my number 1, but Redfall looking really, really cool. Circling back, I know we're going as rapid fire. I'm sure people are frustrated at this point. Guys, there's so much. We still have Nintendo Direct to get to. Like that's where we are. I want to talk. I never thought once that I would say for an E3 rundown, I want to talk about Forza Horizon. I want to talk about Forza. It looks really good.
It looks so beautiful.
Is it? Yeah, graphically it looks absolutely gorgeous. Is it the kind of thing where as I get older, I like Forza Horizon? I've actually never played a single Forza game, but my understanding of Forza is this is a driving simulator. Like this is not Need for Speed. This isn't Burnout.
The dynamics of the vehicles are 100% different than Need for Speed.
Although I will say Horizon is, so like mainline Forza is simulator. Horizon is more arcadey approach to that. But it's still, in terms of vehicular physics, is it, because like that has some intrigue to me now. As I get older and like and not that I drove cars like a maniac when I was younger, but like I think I know how a car works now. And like I think it would be cool to like, okay, let me put it this way. You've been like driving on an empty road and you're like, I want to do a Burnout or something just to like know what it feels like. Forza is offering you that chance, right? They're saying you will know what it feels like in a simulated safe world. That has appealed to me. And yeah, on top of that, looks absolutely gorgeous.
The thing that I'm most excited about it is the addition to make your own custom tracks, which to me, the first thing I said was, wow, they ripped that right out of Grand Theft Auto 5. But it's a popular feature that everyone does and drives their fancy schmancy cars on. And why not monetize off of it?
Yeah, it's a natural progression for them. I never thought I'd be in an E3 showcase saying, wow, Forza. But I felt that one a little bit. Other ones that are highlighted here, just skipping all the way back to the top, we should probably mention Starfield. This is kind of the Bethesda crown jewel, right? It's been talked about for years upon years upon years. I don't know.
Skyrim in space.
Right. That's what we're talking about here, right? The sheer scale of this, to me, is imposing, and I mean that negatively. And I don't want to. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. This is their like headliner thing, but
you're not like a sprawling open world RPG type person.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. It's just so yeah. I should defer to the two of you. I'm not sure how much the two of you go in for that sort of thing. I really don't. So what was your what are your feelings about Starfield at this point?
I never got into Skyrim that much, but I was super into Fallout. Like I think that when we were doing our old podcast back in the pre-Online Warriors days, I'm pretty sure there was a day where I was so engrossed in Fallout, like I was neglecting going to the bathroom, I was neglecting eating, and I think there was a week where I was just like, guys, I don't feel good, and then played Fallout for like 5 hours instead of, recording like a good co-host should. And so to me, if they can give me a compelling story, kind of like they did in Fallout, compelling characters, which was one of the key hallmarks of the Fallout franchise for me, is like very well written supporting characters, and then put it in space and have some emotional gravitas, but also let you do silly things. I think it'll be really fun, and I'm looking forward to it, especially since, again, I don't have to pay for it.
I want to circle back for a second. You said you got so into Fallout that you were neglecting, and you said go into the bathroom.
Yeah,
Which,
I would like...
That's alarming in itself.
Well, no, like, have you ever been so into something that when you finally stop doing whatever it is, whether you're working on something or you're playing something,
Yeah, you're like,
and then
man,
you're
I
like,
like to pee.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that wasn't as serious. Are you telling me that you at one point skipped a podcast recording to play Fallout?
Oh,
I'm okay
yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
My main reaction is like, I'm trying to remember when that happened and if I knew that it had happened.
I don't even know. I don't even think Tectic knew that it happened, because I was just like, I'm not feeling good. Go on without me. And then laid on the couch and played.
Well, that's the thing about video games. You can be sick
and play video games.
Play video games, right? So he probably came back out from recording and you were like, he was none the wiser. Who's to say? Yeah, so it was okay. So we've got to get to Nintendo Direct here pretty soon. So we're going to kind of sweep through some of these other things. Stalker 2 looked pretty scary. This seemed like a thing that Nerd Bomber could not handle. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I don't
want to throw you under the bus, but it's my first reaction.
I remember, like, were you talking about Stalker last week or a couple weeks ago? And I was just like, he would like this game, but I would not.
Oh, it looked great to me. I was like, this looks so fun. Yeah, that one looked cool. Party Animals. This was one that actually slipped by me. This was one that you starred. Is this the one that looked a little bit like a Fall Guys kind of thing? Like
yeah, it looked like
quirky, cartoony party game.
Animals, and then you're just like slapping the shit out of each other. Sorry for my language, but like I think Tectic was the one who looked over and he was like, "This reminds me a lot of Fall Guys," and we had a lot of fun with that. And this looks like it could be equally fun.
I had a lot of fun with it.
I got frustrated because I'd be trying to solve puzzles.
And I'd be slapping her.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a lot of physicality in your house. Like, Nerd Bomber's grabbing Tectic. Tectic, did you at any point grab Nerd Bomber during any E3?
These were all virtual grabs and slaps. Hers were in real life.
Okay. Because she's apparently seeing trailers and grabbing you. I want to know what the trailer was in E3. Maybe we haven't gotten to yet. Maybe that's a Nintendo trailer that you've actually grabbed her, but hey, maybe that's not your thing. Who knows?
No, we've had a conversation about my underwhelming reactions to anything.
No, there is a specific game. If you want his reaction, we'll come up on it. It's one specific game I do want to hit, and the Square Enix presents before we hit Nintendo. And he had an underwhelming reaction, but then when the trailer finished, he perked up and was like, "So did it say something about pre-order?" I was like, "Oh, he's interested."
So that's it's just a very subdued reaction that ends with "take my money." That's interesting. Well, we can, there are a couple I didn't hear. Really, Atomic Heart, I guess, is the only one we didn't.
I thought there was a pre-order figure included. That's what it was.
But let's talk about Square Enix Presents, and we saw an Avengers expansion, we saw a Final Fantasy remaster, but Guardians of the Galaxy is the clear headliner here. I imagine that Square Enix has some kind of contract, right, with, I guess it would be Disney. I don't know who owns the rights to the games for these things, but didn't Avengers not do that well?
Avengers did not do that well.
It's also
I was
very
surprised.
Different game. Just because it's superheroes, the play, the worlds, the interaction with the online community, all very, very different.
Then you're totally right about that, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. But when I first saw it, my reaction was, oh, they must be under contract, because given how Avengers went for them, I can't imagine they would want to do another Marvel property. Like you said, this looks totally different. This looks much more
single player,
cinematically driven kind of thing. Again, you have this kind of issue. I see it as an issue of voice acting and physical character models don't quite match. I will say, whoever they got to voice Rocket Raccoon, almost exactly right. That was like one of my takeaways that I wrote down about this one was, wow, the Rocket Raccoon guy is freaking nailing it. Like, are we sure it's not Bradley Cooper? That was my my takeaway there. It looks really fun. It looks really fun. It looks very well put together. It's going to be a big deal for them. I'm leery. That's my main reaction was I wasn't excited about Avengers, and I was kind of proven right. And again, I know this is a totally different thing, but where are you guys landing on this one? Is this the pre-order one that you were talking about before?
I was very excited about the gameplay. It looks phenomenal. The story looks like it's going to be great. The soundtrack has to be awesome. It's Guardians of the freaking Galaxy. I'm expecting a solid soundtrack. I did ask about the pre-order because I thought it came with cool figures. It does not, but it does come with some DLC costumes, which is also kind of fun. I'm for playing this game. I don't know if I'm going to be a first day player, but it looks very exciting to me.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games, like you said, Avengers, there was a lot going against Avengers. The fact that it's a live service, the fact that when it launched, it didn't seem to give people what was advertised. There were a lot of bugs. Granted, Square Enix has been doing a really good job working with the community and making updates and keeping the game, living, even though it's been out now for a while. Yeah. This, to me, though, it feels like what that game should have been. I don't know why every game doesn't need to be a live service, and a cinematic Avengers game is one of those games that I don't think needed to be a live service. And I think we'll see that making Guardians of the Galaxy a single player, like you said, cinematic, mission-driven game with a lot of good storytelling, a lot of, heart and, I don't know, just good humor is going to be way more successful. For me, I just, this one resonated with me in a way that Avengers never did when we saw trailers for it. And maybe it is just because I like the humor of Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit better. And even like that issue that we have where the character models and voice actors don't match what we know from the movies. Maybe it's because Guardians is a newer adventure and isn't one of the ones that have been steeped in like decades, it seems like, of
Well, and it's also,
movies
it's a lot easier to work around.
aliens.
Like, Groot is a tree. Rocket Raccoon is a raccoon. Star-Lord wearing a mask that's made of metal, I think there are a lot of things, and I totally agree. They appear to be playing to their strengths here, much more so than with Avengers. Guardians of the Galaxy has a much lighter tone. They don't take themselves too seriously cinematically, or in this game, it looks like they won't, and that's only going to be a good thing. I think Avengers, when it takes itself seriously and also, just doesn't look right. Like you said, 10 years worth of it being kind of steeped as like a cultural icon, that didn't do any favors. So this looks like it's headed in the right direction. October 26, 2021 for this one.
That helps too, because it seems like everything that we saw for the most part this E3 weekend is like 2022. And yeah, there's games coming out towards the end of 2021, but I think this is one of those like headliners that we'll see be really successful around that holiday window.
So we'll get to Nintendo. Nintendo actually had a lot coming out this year. We'll get to them in a minute. But before we move on from Square Enix, the other thing I see highlighted here, and I do want to talk about this. Again, never thought for an E3 rundown I would be bringing up a mobile game. How about that, guys? Hitman Sniper: The Shadows. This is a game in the Hitman universe. Apparently there was a previous rendition of Hitman Sniper I did not know about. You do not play as Agent 47, you play as somebody else. I don't have a strong sense of the gameplay here. The trailer was very cinematic. This was also a very cool trailer, by the way. Love the way they did this trailer. Again, kind of that, I think I respond very positively to the freeze frame, move around the room technique, because this was the same exact thing as Contraband. If I understand correctly what this game is going to be, it is going to be the grisly but fun games you would play on addictinggames.com. Not a sponsor. You're a sniper, you have to find a creative way to kill all the dudes, right? Is that the basic? Do I understand this correctly?
That's exactly what it looks like to me. And
yeah,
you know what? I might actually download this one.
It looks good.
It's puzzly, and you guys know I love puzzles.
It would be, it's cool. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of environmental interaction, right? There's a chandelier that presumably has been shot down, right? That's the there's a lot going on visually. But it could be, I haven't played a mobile game of this caliber, pun intended, in a long while, or ever, honestly. I don't even know if I have, but this is the best chance they have.
But that said, we haven't really seen gameplay, so it could just be horrendous.
Right. Did you guys ever play those like addictinggames.com, like those websites?
Oh,
what
you
were the other
know it.
websites that did that? Yeah. There's all kinds of games that were like, you're a sniper, just find the guy that's like leaning against the gas can, shoot the gas can. Like it is like vaguely puzzly stuff that, yeah, it's pretty gruesome, but makes for an enjoyable game. So yeah, Hitman Sniper of the Shadows, that's coming 2021. And again, there were other things in Square Enix. I mentioned the Avengers Wakanda expansion, Final Fantasy remaster. Life is Strange is being remastered, getting true colors as well. But we are in a position where I think we should get into kind of the last major piece of the puzzle here, which is the Nintendo Direct. So, yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I think this is one we all watched straight through. And
yeah. I hesitate to bash.
Yeah, I'm not going to bash anything, but I guess and this is my bad. So like we all kind of knew this E3 was a little bit underwhelming compared to other years. Like there weren't a ton of like major announcements and like the flashy new games we didn't see a lot of, you know what I mean? And yeah. I don't know why I expected more from Nintendo than the other showcases that we saw throughout this entire weekend, but for whatever reason I did.
Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, and it was underwhelming. There, I said it.
I actually had a game that I was super duper excited about, and it's funny that you seem to be sick over there, Illegal, because the game that I was most excited about was not Metroid Prime 4, but rather Metroid Dread. So,
which I just had to say, good. I have to say, they did a real big confuse here, and I know that doesn't make sense, but I'm going to call it a big confuse because the entry slide before they showed off this game, they said Metroid 5, showed the game, and then retitled it to Metroid Dread. This is not Metroid 5, folks.
It's so, okay. I'm glad you brought up Dread. Yeah, well, take it away.
I'm glad I brought up Dread. I'm going to talk about it now.
Yeah.
So when I was introduced to the Metroid franchise, it was all side scroller. It was on my little handheld system, and that's ultimately what I fell in love with. I did play Metroid Prime on the GameCube, and I loved it, but I was always sort of more true to the side scrollers. So for me to get a new side scroller that's coming out, that's really exciting, and I'm actually more excited about this than I would have been had it been a Metroid Prime 4.
And, I can't fault that. It looks great. I will say, like, my thing is they've talked about Metroid Prime. Like, they've backed themselves into a corner. If it's not Metroid Prime 4, I don't want to hear. It could be the best game. It could be made of gold. I would want it. I want Metroid Prime 4. Like, it's...
Well, they've got, like, a George R.R. Martin thing going on where they're, like, teasing...
A little bit, yeah.
Teasing the next entry in their mainline franchise and then being like, but also, here's this. Or I guess Kingdom Hearts did the same thing, where they're like, you want Kingdom Hearts 3? Joke, here's another mobile game.
Well, Nintendo, like, the last time they did that, wasn't that kind of what was going on? They did a Direct, and they were like, we have a Zelda thing. It's Skyward Sword Remastered. Everyone was like, oh, come on, why would you do that? Like, we were thinking you were going to, like, give us, and we'll get to that later. But, Metroid Dread looks really cool. I have some experience, like, I played Super Metroid. I don't think I ever finished it, but I played it a lot of the way through. Side-scrollers where they started. This looks like it's going to be really well done. It looks like a game that I would even play and enjoy. I can't move past my saltiness, and that's a me problem. Now, before we get to, there's a bunch highlighted here, and for good reason. There's actually one here that's not highlighted that I want to talk about very briefly to voice some more anger. Worms Rumble. What has been done to the Worms franchise is criminal, and this is just the latest piece. Did you guys play Worms in like the early 2000s on the
PC? Yeah,
they had it. Just do that. Just do that for 100 games. I don't need any more graphics. I don't need, keep it 2D. Just do that. Like, then they came out with like Worms Blast, Worms 3D.
Well, we have the 3D one too.
It just, it might be fine, but like they had the perfect formula.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know
I don't
why they-
disagree.
I
The
don't know.
2D was just like Metroid was really the pinnacle of it.
Yeah, you have me there. Yeah. We don't have to dwell on that. I just wanted to voice some continued annoyance with that.
There's another
Um,
game that I want to point out that I was actually kind of excited about, and that was,
Yeah.
and forgive my botching of the title, Shin Megami Tensei 5. This was Pokemon with demons, and it was actually kind of cool. And I know
Yeah,
that it's the 5th installment, but okay, I'll jump right in.
Yeah, I did
Yeah, I
like the
don't-
fact it's like an angels and demons sort of thing, and I think the ability to like recruit demons, and then that was cool. But then what really kind of caught my attention was the ability to kind of like meld demons together to make new ones that are like unique. That was kind of neat. That did turn my head, I will say.
The premise is definitely super cool. Like you said, I mean the premise can easily be summed up in Pokemon with angels and demons, right? And like Pokemon clearly a big deal. It almost makes you wonder a little bit like why is part of why Pokemon is such a big deal? Is it not because of the turn-based gameplay? Is it more because of like keep Pokemon? Like like is it
People like
is
to
it the
collect
Pokemon
shit, man.
themselves? I guess, but you could collect certain angels and demons. Like they could have created the same sort of collectible universe. Just maybe the monsters themselves are like what really do it for people. That's a side shoot that we don't have to get into. Right before that game was WarioWare Get It Together, and I do want to mention this because I've actually been out of the WarioWare universe for a while. My favorite WarioWare game is the original WarioWare. Nerd Bomber said not to out you, Nerd Bomber. You were like, I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it. It's
No,
like,
I think I said I never understood WarioWare. I don't get it.
I will say, like, it's watching those WarioWare, I think, is one of those games where you don't get it until you play it. It's addicting. It is extremely addicting. It's these stupid little mini games. Watching the footage, like, it makes no sense. It's like serial killer stuff. It's like peel this guy's face mask off and like, put toothpaste on a toothbrush. You're like, what's this fun? What is it? Like it's very hard to market. It has to be because it makes no sense. And also, like, they did the Wario voice for this one, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But the mini game format is really cool, and the fact that they're introducing co-op here, I think, is really, really awesome. So I was into that. This is one that I might actually buy.
Are you and Hayes gonna co-op very strange mini games and put toothpaste on each other's toothbrushes?
It's actually like Hayes has very specific game tastes, and I think we might hit with this one. So
I feel like this is one I'm gonna eat my words when I finally ever try a WarioWare game, and I'm like, damn it, this is fun. And then I'm gonna have to like retract
they're
all
fantastic.
of those statements.
Okay, so yeah, technically, I was gonna say I thought you had played, and you played the ones after the first one too, didn't you? Or
I focused mainly in the Wario Land games.
Oh,
but it's all the same kind of quirkiness, and it's a good time. It's like Mario. It's like the Mario games, but just sort of cracked out.
Well,
if I were to describe it.
Yeah,
these remind me. We've talked about like obviously like the addicting games, but these remind me of a bunch of like little flash games that they've compiled into one game.
Yeah. But with Wario Land, to go back to that, I never played the original Wario Land. I played Wario Land 2. And like you said, it's kind of like coked out Mario. Like that's a pretty good description of it. They're really fun. And WarioWare is even more coked out. WarioWare is like literally like there are certain versions. So you did play WarioWare, right, Tactic? Am I remembering that right? Or like you can play certain game modes that are like you're doing these mini games that they showed in this trailer, but you're doing them so fast. Like the game, the way it works is you play through these mini games and you're constantly, when you pass one, yay, good. If you fail one, you lose a life and you have like 3 lives. But as you keep going, as you pass more and more, it gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And the fuse in each mini game gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And it's so addicting. It is so addicting.
And that's where the crack cocaine comes from.
Honestly, it is like I think you really hit the nail. I know you're saying that about Wario Land, but like all the Wario games, you hit the nail on the head. They're just cracked out. And it's really fun. Sticking with mini games, though, I do want to talk about Mario Party Superstars, because I was actually surprised. I'm not a Mario Party person. I am a Mario Party 64, that first Mario Party on the N64. I was super into that game. And lo and behold, they're bringing back a bunch of stuff from, like, I saw Mushroom Mix-Up remastered in this trailer. I saw where you're moving Bowser's face around. I was like, this is great. This is exactly what I want you to do. I might buy that one. It's not, otherwise it's kind of just Mario Party, right? Which I think Mario Party's kind of fallen off in recent years, but it looks like they're trying to get it back. And they're also introducing online play.
I think that online play is super key because, yeah, Mario Party, I've always played it at people's houses, and that's cool and all, but you sometimes can't get a big crowd to all gather around in a living room for a little bit. And like with you and us, we're miles and miles and miles apart. And it would be nice to be able to play, stuff like Among Us rose in popularity, especially in the last year because people are separate, but they found ways to play with each other. And I think, now things are kind of getting to a point where we can all kind of like come back together, but you still have distance between people, and having online play for fun little diversions like Mario Party, I think is great.
Mario Party, if anyone out there hasn't played it, which is probably unlikely at this point, you have to let go, and this is hard for me to do, and that's why I'm saying it. You have to let go of the idea that if you're the best player, you will win. That is like the antithesis of Mario. It's like the opposite of Mario
random
Party.
star that people get. Ugh, makes me sick.
Well, and then like every time the star gets, every time someone gets a star, it moves somewhere random on the map essentially. So someone might be right. Like the mini games are great, and the mini games are the heart of the game, and they're like, it makes perfect sense. The actual like meta game itself, it's the stupidest thing in the world. It makes no sense. You shouldn't bother trying. Whenever I play Mario Party now, I'm like, I'm not even going to bother until there's a mini game in front of me because it's just a waste of time. And it's like gotten worse and worse over that. I could rant about this we should do like a secret segment about that because I could talk about it for hours. But let's not. Let's talk about Advance Wars. Did you guys ever play Advance Wars? My brother played Advance Wars. When I saw this, I recognized the theme music, and I didn't even play it.
This was iconic, I feel like, back in the day.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
This was...
And I feel like the franchise and the IP just kind of disappeared. Like, I know there were offshoots and whatever, but having this game come back and reintroduced to potentially a new generation of people, this is just good old-fashioned classic strategy fun. You know what I mean? This is like the kind of stuff that I would waste hours, and at the end, like, this isn't relaxing because eventually your brain starts to hurt and you're really like grinding your gears trying to figure out the best way to win. But it's fun and super rewarding, and I'm excited that this is back.
I could care less about this one.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, I appreciated it for the nostalgia. I'm not gonna buy it. Like, it might have changed, but like when I was younger and my brother had this game for the Game Boy Advance or whatever, and I would try to play it. I mean, the issue was probably, let's call it what it is. I probably didn't have the patience for it. It's not a fast moving game, right? It's kind of just chess. It's like chess but slower, if anything. I struggle with that. I don't know if I would do better with it now, but I'm not going to take the chance monetarily, I don't think. I just thought it was cool to see it come back. There was a big reveal at the end. Before we get to that, Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania 20th anniversary collection for the Switch. Now, I have not played a single Super Monkey Ball game. I have to say, it looks great. Who's the monkey? One of you is a monkey ball person, or both of you. Who is it?
I played it a lot at my friend's house growing up, like an unreasonable amount, and it is cutesy and addicting.
So you're probably going to be buying this one?
I'm an adult now. I don't do cutesy and addicting.
That's just straight up false.
I mean, that means yes, if anything. It looks like it's the kind of game where it looks like. It's a fun party game.
It's great to gather with friends and play together.
Not a lot of thought required. A lot of fun to be had. Kind of that. Because I've played games that I imagine are kind of like it. I mean, you're rolling a ball around on like a big track, and if you fall off the track, you die. That's basically the premise, right? Seems fine to me. Like, sounds great. And any remastered collection that comes out ever, I'm like, yes, this is a great idea. I'm not mad at all. This is no exception. This brings us kind of to the crown jewel Breath of the Wild 2 footage. at the very end of the Nintendo Direct. And we're skipping a lot of stuff here. But this
Did
was
you
some
guys
weird
get
footage.
like geeked out because they were like, we have one more thing, and then they showed the Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity expansion pass, and I was like, what the heck? And I was
And
ready
they
to
showed like a bunch more after
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And I thought for sure they weren't going to show any Breath of the Wild 2 stuff, and then they eventually did, which was good. But
I want to know what's going on with his hand.
There's a lot in this. It was so cryptic, this trailer. So cryptic.
The biggest takeaway from that whole thing was they kept showing various color magic orbs coming from his hand, and it looked like either you're getting magic hands of varying powers and different abilities, which is really, really exciting, or something happened to his hand and it's some cool prosthetic.
one of the things that I thought was neat and now makes a little bit more sense why Skyward Sword was remastered, even though it seems like it wasn't one of people's favorite games back in the day, was this game, Breath of the Wild 2, is now going to include the skies above Hyrule, which you see some more like flying, falling from the sky stuff that I think I saw some people kind of put them side by side, like a screenshot of Link falling through the sky in this footage next to Skyward Sword, and it looks pretty similar. So now it kind of makes a little bit more sense why they chose to release that game. And I know people were like, oh, just give us Breath of the Wild 2. Why are you going back and remastering this game? But maybe that kind of informed some of the technical improvements they were able to make, and it makes more sense, which gears clicking in my head. So now I can't really fault them for doing that. Not that it really did, but like people were.
This is a dumb thing to hone in on, but like the thing when I think back to this trailer, the thing I remember the most is the last shot of it was so long. It was just a shot of like a landscape with like the castle. I was like, is there something I'm supposed to be seeing? It was like a solid 10 seconds of just kind of this wide shot. And I was like, should I be seeing something here? I don't know if I missed something, but a lot of red. That's another thing I remember. I'm just talking totally in terms of visuals because I haven't played a Zelda game basically ever. A lot of red, scary stuff happening.
Specifically glowy red.
Glowy red, yeah. The castle itself seems to be like ensconced in these like glowy red tendril things that I don't understand.
I believe, by the way, that scene was showing Hyrule being sort of taken over. That's
like swallowed up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got, which cool.
Yeah. Good vibes for 2022. I mean, yeah, people I'm sure were extremely excited to see this one. This is a good time if especially considering we're nearing the end here. There were, I'm sure, games that we did not mention that you wanted us to. There were certain things about the games we did mention that you wanted us to talk about more. At OW Illegal86, at OW Tactic, at OW Nerdbomber, at Online Warriors 1, all of our Twitter accounts there for you. Come chat with us about the wonders of E3. And before we sign off here, I think it's worth coming around the table. I don't think we're going to do any what we've been up to, any game, like I said, but general vibes on E3 2021. I won't preface it in any way. I'll spin it over to Tactic. Tactic, what was your overall takeaway from E3? Anything you were particularly excited about? Just a general, what sense you got about the future of gaming?
I think that Microsoft crushed it. And I feel bad for those who don't have an Xbox.
Game Pass specifically.
That showcase I thought was the best of all of E3 by far.
And we didn't even mention the mini fridge, which by the way is happening. But Did you guys see that? I didn't dream that, did I?
No, that's real. That is definitely a real thing.
Yeah.
But not only was the content just knock you out of your chair, but the value of the content was just absolutely wonderful. And so, like I said, if for those who don't have an Xbox, y'all better be getting an Xbox, not a sponsor.
Yeah, no, this one hurt for me. There's no doubt, consider, PlayStation, at large sat this out, and we knew that was going to happen. But like, in terms of other games that are going to be across my takeaway, by the way, is like, whatever. That like I'm sorry, I don't want to leave it on that. I will hopefully Nerdbomb will have something more positive to say. But like there were very, very few things here that jumped out at me. And like I don't know if it's the fact that there wasn't enough AAA content, because I think there was. I think it's just, I don't know, there was this general malaise for me. There were a handful of things that excited me a little bit. Contraband excited me. Redfall certainly did. And again, now we're getting into a lot of the Xbox stuff that they're not exclusives, I don't think, but they're, Xbox forward. I would say WarioWare excited me a decent amount. But nothing had my jaw on the floor.
I can I think pinpoint that feeling. And maybe it's just me.
I'm floundering, so yeah, please help me.
In past years, E3, you feel like you come away from the weekend or the week, because it's normally not on the weekend. It's usually like kind of during the week. And you have new games that you had never heard of before, were not expecting, and suddenly they're on your radar and you're excited for them. This year, there were a couple new announcements like Redfall, Contraband, Tiny Tina, but for the most part, like I remember other years, it would be title after title after title after title of world announcement. Like, this is the first time ever you're hearing about this game. We didn't get a lot of that. And I think I mentioned this before. Some of that might just be, the pandemic. Some of it might be learning from prior mistakes. Like there were a lot of big name games that were already announced that we didn't hear from. Everwild from Rare. It could be they're learning from mistakes, because that game we just learned over the weekend. We've seen footage at previous E3s, I think 2 now, where they showed this game, and Rare is overhauling it and basically starting all over again. And so maybe developers are just getting gun shy, where they're like, we're not going to show you stuff until we're very firm on what this game is and within like a year of release. But it feels underwhelming, because there's nothing new really to look forward to. Like you always tend to walk away from E3 with, in 2 years, there's this list of epic games that I know is coming. And past mid 2022, I don't really know what's on the horizon.
Because thinking back to past E3s, like there are 2 titles that might have been the same E3 that they were announced or revealed or whatever. Deathloop and Returnal. Both of those games, granted, I don't own either of those games yet. Deathloop's not even out. Returnal I don't own because I don't have a PS5. But like both of those, I was like, yes, 100% yes. Those look amazing. Both original titles, by the way, not franchises. And I was like, I'm really into this. I can confidently say this year there was nothing like that for me. Again, Contraband was the closest one, but I haven't seen enough to know yet. And I think you're right. I think that. And I think it makes sense for developers to be more careful. Like, I mean, Metroid Prime 4, not much has even been revealed about it yet, but look what they did. They made me hate them, right? and you don't want to do that. Even if you're Nintendo, you probably don't want to do that. So developers are being more cautious. And there's games like Cyberpunk that came out recently that flat out were not ready, right? And there's a bunch of mitigating circumstances with that game in particular. But that was a very hyped game that I'm sure it was at E3 at some point, right? So it
I mean, that had the big E3 with Keanu, and that was super hyped, and everyone was like, oh my god, Cyberpunk. Yeah. And now in retrospect, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, so I think you're totally right. I think developers are learning to be a little bit more careful, which is a good thing, but it does throw a little bit of cold water on E3. Also, maybe I'm just like getting old. Like it's, I don't want to leave it with that opinion either. But like,
I really don't think so though, because the games that you mentioned that you were hyped for, Returnal and Deathloop, like those are games that came out this year. Like I don't really think it's that at all. I think it's just, like I said, a lot of these announcements, we already knew these games. It really wasn't anything new. It was just like more information.
And, cool. It takes a lot out of your sales too. When like I think we talked about when we were talking about Ubisoft or however you want to pronounce it. Avatar, whatever it's called, was like their big. They were hanging their hat on that. I think, and they shouldn't have. Like they shouldn't have done that. So
And,
I think to see
for context and comparison, remember when Harry Potter was announced and we were all
Yeah.
floored. So
didn't hear anything about that this time. Like
I think it's just the properties and things that we've already heard, and it's just there's not hype here. It's just like we got more information on all of these things we kind of expected.
Here's to hoping they set the bar low this year so that next year just knocks our socks off.
Well, I and you know what? I think there's a lot of merit in that prognosis. Like I do think that next year, hopefully everything is more so back to normal. I think it could be a huge coming out party for developers who've hit the ground running more so than they did this year, and Metroid Prime 4. Like maybe that'll fun. Once again,
remaster.
I'm flipping my calendar into 2022, and I'm circling whatever day E3's been announced for, and I'm writing Metroid Prime 4 next to in a heart. And we'll just have to see. Metroid Prime 4, at this point, I'm wondering if it's going to be one of those situations where Nintendo, because what they love to do is like, they're like, and they did this in their Direct too, which I really appreciate actually. They will announce a game, and then they're like, it's out today. Like, here. Which, like, good. And they didn't do that so much this time, but their release dates were noticeably closer than everybody else's. They had a lot more fall release dates. So there are things to look forward to there. There's no doubt. And you can probably wait till 2022 for the other stuff. And maybe I'm just being a big wet blanket. You should tell me so on Twitter. That's what the Twitters are there for. So yeah, we're approaching 90 minutes here. Any closing thoughts, you two?
I don't think so. I mean, I didn't come away, like I said, as like super hyped about gaming, but there's a lot to like here and a lot of stuff in the future of gaming coming out in the next couple of years that I'm going to be busy. And especially with Game Pass, like I'm probably going to have choice paralysis and look forward to hearing me complain about not knowing what to play next.
Well, we're spoiled as heck, right? Like, my God, we watched a trailer for an Avatar video game that like has better graphics than most movies, and we were like, eh.
Well, because it's not the graphics, right? I'm
right.
gaga over Metroid Dread, and that's a 2D game. It's the content that we're truly excited about. And
right. You hear that?
For me, Avatar
developers?
just
Right. Blue avatars. Nerd Bomber said it best. Blue avatar in parentheses. James Cameron, eat your heart out. So yeah, we're gonna stick a pin in our E3 2021 recap. Again, our Twitters were mentioned earlier. Feel free to hit us up. Tell us why we suck. Why we didn't mention what you wanted. And leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Hopefully not telling us we suck over there, but if you think we suck, we suck. There's something we can do about that. We will be back next week with our usual scheduled programming. You'll hear what we've been up to. You'll hear me lose a game or win a game. Who knows? Stop clock is right twice a day.
And a fun special interview.
Fun special interview. That's right. We have a fun special. Do people know? Should I not say the name? I won't say the name. We'll keep it.
It'll be a surprise.
Under wraps. An interview. And we're not interviewing each other. It's not like an interview with one of us. It doesn't count, guys. We interview each other whenever we do the podcast, basically. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for sitting and chatting with us for a while.